Hello, my name is Andy and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. Here we are once again in the city of Leeds, and many moons ago I covered Ledsham. It was the first video I did in this series. Well, the next village over to the west is this place. This is pretty much the same sort of size, and it's got quite a bit in it and a lot of history to it. Especially if you're into the paranormal, this one will be of interest to you. There's a legend in this part of Yorkshire pertaining to witches, and in particular Mary Pannal. Welcome to Ledston. Ledston is a village and civil parish 3 miles north of Castleford and 10 miles east of Leeds in the county of West Yorkshire. It had a population of 400 in 2001, which decreased slightly to 394 at the 2011 census. Ledston is first mentioned in 1086 and on through the Middle Ages in forms like Ledstone, often spelt without the E, and Ledstoner. Like Ledsham, the first part of the name seems to refer to Leeds, or the Old English precursor of this name, Loidis, which denoted a region rather than a town. It literally means the settlement or estate belonging to Leeds. Ledston lies to the east of the A656 road, and there was a railway station named after the village on the Castleford to Garforth line, though this station was actually adjacent to Allerton Bywater Colliery. Next week, we'll see where that station was. The village has had some interesting occurrences throughout history, none more so perhaps than the tale of Mary Pannal, a herbalist and cunning woman who was accused of and executed for witchcraft in 1603. That followed the death of a young child named William Witham in 1593, to whom she had administered a herbal mixture. So one thing I did notice about Ledston before I came here is it's got plenty of footpaths, but annoyingly none of them lead up to Pannal Wood, which is a bit annoying. I would have liked to have shown you the wood where Mary Pannal was executed. That will have to just be a shot from the road, I'm afraid. The local tradition is that Pannal was taken to the top of the hill, which still bears her name and is within full view of the windows of Ledston Hall, to be hanged on a tree, but it took several failed attempts as the cord was bewitched. That's where a crow would come in. Oh, that worked. Let's try that again, shall we? There we go. The hangsmen were baffled, but whilst consulting and marvelling one amongst another, a bird of the crow tribe flew over, muttering slowly as it flew, "A withy, a withy, a withy." Whereupon the hangsmen got a flexible withy of Wiggan from the adjoining thicket and suspended the witch upon it, and the execution was immediately consummated. Old inhabitants of Ledston can remember seeing the identical tree felled. There's much more to Ledston than the legend of Mary Pannal. If you come here these days, you won't find any witches, but you will find a population spread over almost 8 square kilometres for a population density of 42.81. 98% of them here are white British citizens. The average house is pricey, coming in at £615,000. There's one bus service through the village, and that's the 175 between Wakefield and Castleford. Here's something interesting about the bus shelters though. On the side, there's a black crow, which might be, although this is only a semi-educated guess, a reference to the crow from the Mary Pannal tale. Now, there are no local shops, but some would argue Hick, an award-winning independent wine shop and outdoor watering hole, to be an essential amenity. They sell all their wines, champagne and spirits by the bottle, case or mixed case. Now, how many of my followers can relate to this? Of course I drink like a fish. I'm a mermaid. The White Horse Inn is a 15th century public house. It was the 2019 regional winner of the North East Pubs in Bloom and supports various local activities such as a village scarecrow competition and the Ledston Christmas lights switch on. The old red phone box is not a book exchange here, but it does house the defibrillator. Next to this, there's a post box. The village is lacking a post office. Ledston has a primary school, Lady Elizabeth Hastings, which was mentioned back in the Ledsham episode. A number of primary schools in West Yorkshire bear her name. Perhaps the most noticeable landmark as you walk through the village to the south would be the abundance of stone water troughs, which now have flowers in them. You'll eventually come to the village water pump. Now, up there on the hill behind me is Ledston Hall. This is about as close as I'm going to be able to get to it because it's a private road that leads up to it. So I won't be able to go up there and give you any closer shots than this. However, this is not a bad place to stand and use my phone camera to zoom in. So I'll see what I can get from here. But if it turns out to be bad, the picture bit will help me out with some better images that I've found on the old tinterwebs. Up on a hill above the village is Ledston Hall, which was the home of Lady Elizabeth Hastings, daughter of the 7th Earl of Huntingdon, also known as Lady Betty. The hall was originally a grange and chapel built by the monks of Pontefract Priory. It's a Grade 1 listed building, and several associated buildings and garden features are also listed. Ledston Hall featured in the television show Most Haunted Live in 2007, but it was called Wheeler Priory for security reasons at the time. Wheeler was the surname of the last family that owned the hall. This isn't much of a stream to write home about, but there are plenty of drains around Ledston as we're not too far away from the River Aire. To the south of the village, there's also a fish farm. Now we're to the north of the village, and straight ahead of us is Pannal Hill and Mary Pannal Wood. The ghost of Mary Pannal is said to haunt the woods. The suggestion is that if someone sees her ghost, which will be leading a horse, then someone close to them will die. Now, there's a little bit more to Ledston than just the village. There's something called Ledston Luck, and that's where I'm going now. But before we get to that, it's time for today's picture bit, and here it comes right now. Ledston also had a colliery named after it. That was Ledston Luck, which was connected via a narrow gauge railway line up to Peckfield Colliery in Micklefield. Ledston Luck Colliery closed in 1986, and the site is now this, a local nature reserve. The site supports a range of wildlife habitats, some of which have developed naturally, though most, including the woodlands, ponds and some areas of meadow, were created in the early 1990s as part of a landscape improvement scheme. It forms part of the Green Corridor in the Lower Aire Valley in Leeds, which is owned by Leeds City Council and managed in partnership with the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust. Ledston Luck Pit was sunk in the 1870s and became part of the linked Super Pit around Selby. The pit naturally had a small development of housing close to it, and that's Ledston Luck Village. Ledston Luck's miners were the last to return to work after the miners' strike in 1984, a year to the day after the National Coal Board announced plans to shed 20,000 more jobs in the next financial year. The village is pretty much a separate settlement from the main Ledston village. In fact, the two have very little in common with one another. They even have differing postcodes. Ledston Look falls within Leeds LS25, while Ledston is Castleford WF10. Ledston Look has its own playground and recreational space, which is something the main Ledston village also appears to lack. Other than that, it's mainly just terraced housing of the same style we're accustomed to encountering in these coal mining areas. There's not much left of the colliery though. The proud headstocks are long gone, as is most of the infrastructure, but there are some incredibly interesting ones that remain. This is one of them. We'll get to this abandoned building in just a moment. But the former colliery canteen is still very much operational and still serving food and drink, albeit now the pit stop cafe. So as I was driving towards Ledston Lock, it was this building I was originally drawn to. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely derelict, definitely abandoned, as you can tell by the overgrown frontage of it. I'm going to take a little walk up these steps to see what exactly this is. Low branches, not easy to get through. I don't know what it is. It looks like maybe some kind of pump house or old colliery building or something. I'm not quite sure. Let's see if we can get a handle on it. In actual fact, these are the colliery's winding houses, which are on the English Heritage List of Scheduled Ancient Monuments. This one is winding house number 1, and the one we saw a moment ago is number 2. Both have had all their winding gear removed. The building in between has now been converted into offices. I'm led to believe urban explorers love these buildings, but I for one strongly discourage it, as they're likely unsafe structures. And the local buses do stop here as well, although as you can see from this one, it's school services only out here. There is actually a bus stop within the houses, like a proper bus shelter. But that's what you do for public transport out here at Ledston Look. And that's it for the parish of Ledston. Not really much more to tell you than that, I think. So yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed this one. And next week we'll be in another part of Leeds, a much bigger part of Leeds actually, one with a lot more coal mining history. So stick around if you're interested in that kind of thing. But for now, this has been the parish of Ledston, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.